The Caribbean's turquoise waters, long a symbol of paradise and escape, now shimmer with tension and uncertainty. These once peaceful seas are now the front line of a dangerous global drama, where the stakes are higher than ever before. Today, September 22, 2025, old rivalries are reigniting with new intensity, echoing the shadowy conflicts of the past but with modern twists. The United States, Russia, and China are all vying for influence, with Venezuela at the center, rich in oil, crippled by crisis, and desperate for allies. This isn't just a regional dispute, it's a global power struggle, with warships and fighter jets as chess pieces in a high-stakes game that could reshape the world order. The U.S. has ramped up its military presence, citing narcotics trafficking and the need to protect its interests, but also sending a clear warning to its rivals. Meanwhile, Venezuela's President Maduro has welcomed Russian bombers and warships, eager to show strength and defiance in the face of American pressure. This partnership directly challenges American dominance in its own backyard, raising the specter of a new era of confrontation in the Western Hemisphere. Unlike the Cold War, today's conflict is more complex, with China's economic power adding a third dimension, its investments and trade routes now deeply woven into the region's fabric. For Russia, it's a chance to project power far from home. For Venezuela, it's a matter of survival and sovereignty. For the U.S., it's a test of influence, credibility, and the ability to maintain order in a rapidly changing world. The risk of miscalculation grows daily, as military hardware piles up, political rhetoric intensifies, and the margin for error shrinks. Leaders are drawing lines in the sand and diplomacy is fading, replaced by threats and ultimatums. The world watches anxiously, wondering not if, but when, confrontation will erupt, and what the cost will be. The tranquil Caribbean, once a haven for travelers and dreamers, is now a powder keg, its beauty masking the danger beneath. The world holds its breath, hoping no one lights the fuse that could ignite a conflict with consequences far beyond these shores. The U.S. recently escalated tensions with a major military buildup in the Caribbean. Over 4,000 troops, submarines, surveillance jets, and warships. Officially, it's about fighting drug cartels, but many see it as a direct threat to Maduro's government. The deployment scale far exceeds what's needed for anti-narcotics operations. Washington doubled the reward for Maduro's arrest, intensifying pressure. Tensions exploded when the U.S. Navy sank a Venezuelan boat, killing 11. The U.S. claimed it targeted a criminal group, but Venezuela called it piracy and a violation of sovereignty. Legal experts questioned the attack's legitimacy under international law. The incident galvanized Venezuelan public opinion and gave Maduro a pretext to deepen military ties with Russia. The threat of U.S. intervention became real, pushing Caracas to seek a powerful ally. Russia was ready to step in. In response to U.S. pressure, Venezuela has embraced Russia militarily. Maduro now welcomes Russian strategic bombers and warships, signaling a new era of cooperation. Russian bombers capable of carrying nuclear weapons now land in Venezuela, sending a clear message to Washington. Russian naval visits and joint exercises in the Caribbean worry U.S. planners, as Moscow gains a foothold near Florida. For Russia, it's a chance to challenge U.S. dominance and test its military reach. For Venezuela, it's a deterrent against U.S. invasion. This partnership is a symbol of a multipolar world, where the U.S. faces real pushback, but the stakes are high. Russian forces so close to the U.S. raise the risk of miscalculation. Even a minor incident could spiral into a major crisis. The Caribbean is now a flashpoint between nuclear powers. At the heart of this conflict is oil. Venezuela holds the world's largest proven reserves. Yet years of turmoil and sanctions have left its industry in ruins. For Russia and China, Venezuela is a golden opportunity, vast resources desperate for investment. By investing in Venezuela's oil, they secure energy and gain leverage over the West. Russia coordinates with Venezuela to influence global oil prices and gains a loyal ally. China recently signed a multi-billion-dollar deal to develop Venezuelan oil fields, securing resources and expanding influence. The U.S. faces a dilemma. Sanctions weaken Maduro but risk ceding oil to rivals. Washington allows Chevron a limited presence, acknowledging Venezuela's strategic value. The fear, a revitalized Russian and Chinese-backed oil industry shifting global energy power away from the West. While Russia brings military might to Venezuela's doorstep, projecting power and sending a clear message to Washington, China offers Venezuela an economic lifeline, quietly but decisively shaping the country's future. Beijing avoids direct military involvement, preferring to operate behind the scenes. Instead, it focuses on trade, investment, and diplomacy, tools that are less provocative but equally powerful. China's patient strategy secures vital energy resources and expands its influence, all while avoiding direct confrontation with the U.S. Chinese exports to Venezuela are vital, filling supermarket shelves and providing essential goods that are otherwise blocked by international sanctions. These shipments help ease shortages and keep the Venezuelan economy afloat, even as the country faces isolation from much of the West. China's billion-dollar oil investments aim to boost production, stabilize Maduro's regime, and ensure a steady flow of crude to Chinese markets. Diplomatically, China condemns U.S. sanctions and military threats, positioning itself as a defender of national sovereignty and non-interference. This stance resonates with many countries wary of U.S. intervention, further strengthening China's global image. Maduro touts his close ties with Xi Jinping, using the relationship to bolster his legitimacy at home and abroad. State media in Venezuela often highlights this partnership, portraying China as a steadfast ally. Yet China's support has clear limits. There are no military guarantees, only the promise of economic power and investment. Beijing is careful not to provoke Washington, always weighing its long-term interests over short-term gains. China lets Russia take the military risks, while it reaps the economic rewards and builds lasting influence. Chinese-funded factories and infrastructure projects provide jobs and development, deepening ties between the two nations. This division of labor makes Venezuela more resilient to U.S. pressure, creating a buffer against economic collapse. Together, Moscow and Beijing form a formidable support structure, each playing to their strengths. The U.S. now faces a united front in Venezuela, complicating its strategy and limiting its options in the region. Under mounting international pressure, President Nicolas Maduro projects unwavering defiance, rallying his loyal base with fiery nationalistic rhetoric. He frames the crisis as a battle for Venezuela's sovereignty, painting himself as the last line of defense against foreign intervention. To reinforce his message, Maduro mobilizes millions of civilian militiamen, parading them through Caracas and vowing that Venezuela will never be touched by foreign powers. He insists that the nation stands united, ready to resist any external threat. The dramatic sinking of a Venezuelan patrol boat is quickly seized upon by Maduro's government as a powerful propaganda tool, used to stoke nationalist sentiment and justify forging even deeper military and political ties with Russia. Russian support for Maduro remains unwavering. Moscow frames its military deployments and cooperation as both routine and entirely legal, emphasizing its commitment to Venezuela's sovereignty and stability. In response, Russia accuses the United States of hypocrisy, pointing to the vast network of American military bases around the globe and highlighting Washington's own history of intervention in Latin America. This narrative, pushed by both Moscow and Caracas, seeks to normalize Russia's growing military and political role in the Western Hemisphere, challenging the traditional U.S. sphere of influence. Meanwhile, Latin American neighbors watch with growing alarm, fearing that escalating tensions could destabilize the entire region and spark a wider crisis. Europe calls urgently for diplomacy and dialogue, but its influence in the region is limited, leaving it largely on the sidelines as events unfold. Legal experts warn that both U.S. and Russian actions are pushing the boundaries of international law, raising concerns about the erosion of global norms and the risk of unintended escalation. The situation is a tinderbox, with defiant voices on all sides making it even more combustible. Political tensions spill into the streets and parliaments, fueling uncertainty and unrest. Around the world, newsrooms buzz with breaking updates as people watch anxiously, aware that the next move could have global consequences. The world is on edge, hoping for restraint and a peaceful resolution. With military hardware amassing and diplomatic tensions rising, the stakes for Venezuela and the world are higher than ever before. The Caribbean crisis is eroding the foundations of international law. Both the US and Russia are pushing the limits of what's legally permissible, undermining the UN Charter. The US sinking of a Venezuelan boat outside a declared conflict sets a dangerous precedent. Russia's provocative deployments raise legal questions too. Recent Russian drone incursions into NATO airspace show a willingness to test boundaries globally. As superpowers disregard norms, smaller nations are left vulnerable. The guardrails preventing conflict are being dismantled one act at a time. The world grows more unpredictable as military force replaces diplomacy. As September 2025 ends, the Caribbean teeters on the edge of disaster. US and Russian forces crowd the region, raising the risk of accidental conflict between nuclear powers. A naval blockade or a permanent Russian base could trigger a modern Cuban Missile Crisis. Economic fallout would be global, shipping disrupted, oil prices soaring, and Venezuela's humanitarian crisis deepening. The only escape is de-escalation and renewed diplomacy, but political will is lacking. The world watches, hoping leaders pull back from the brink. If not, the Caribbean could ignite a new global conflict. The stakes have never been higher.